Hello everybody, my name is Kuldeep Singh Randhawa. I'm a professional engineer who was suspended in August 2005 following a fraudulent investigation in April 2005 by APEC BC, which is the engineering regulatory body in BC, British Columbia, a province of Canada, a nation that is supposed to be at the forefront of human rights, where I would say there's serious issues now in Canada that need to be resolved and done so immediately. This video is video number 2 concerning the Gateway high-rise project of mine, which was interfered with, where my shares and property were stolen, where my former brother Manjeet Singh Randhawa, who lives in the UK, was criminally entrapped. I want to talk about this so that lawyers who are seeing this video can come forward immediately. Even though the crime has taken place, the property theft has taken place, and taken place despite ample notification to the courts that there's a crime taking place. None of those professional lawyers have been investigated by the Law Society. When you have institutions who are protecting corrupt lawyers so that the insurance fund of the Law Society does not have to bear the cost of that fraudulent crime, damages are now caused which are quite immense and considerable. All it required was investigation of 3 lawyers who were representing my former brother Manjeet Singh Randhawa, where he was deceived and misinformed of the complete facts. Having been misinformed and deceived, he commenced a proceeding. As a result of that, he presented fraudulent information, where that information is affidavits which were prepared and supervised by lawyers. The person responsible for the crime is actually the lawyers, because if the lawyers are aware that there's a crime taking place within the court system, your duty as lawyers is to stop that crime, not continue with it. So there's going to be another video concerning that. But I want to mention the proceeding number is S111030. It is a oppression proceeding commenced by Manjeet Singh Randhawa against me around 2008. The lawyers involved are Lawson Lundell, LLP, Craig Ferris, and 2 other lawyers who were actually acting within the court itself, where Craig Ferris, a QC, never turned up. So he was the supervising counsel for the other lawyers. But the ones who are doing the crimes were all 3 of them. When oppression proceedings take place, people need to understand what is really taking place. Under the BC Corporations Act, a director of a company like myself and a shareholder like myself, if you're the only director and only shareholder, the person who has the control of the company is me, if that was the case. And that is the case here, as it was well before we actually purchased the lands on 108th Avenue. The address is 13418, 13428 on 108th Avenue, Surrey, BC, right next to Gateway Station. I invited my brother, who wanted to do a project with me, because I come from the UK. I moved from India from a young age and came to Canada in '94, but there was always a desire to do something positive for the family, and the person who was closest to me was the one that has been deceived and now criminally entrapped. He has certain views that are egoistic, opinions which are not really good. He could be considered as the black sheep of the family. But I always stood by him. He was the closest to me. Even when the rest of the family members said stay away from him, I stood by him, because that is what unity is. I wanted my family to be strong in this world. Most Sikh families think that way. Most families in other cultures think that way as well. And when I came here to Canada, I've been reaching out to a lot of lawyers on the same concepts and same principles. Lawyers who are Sikhs or Hindus. They understand the culture. They understand about what's been happening in the world, what happened in India when the British were there. You know about colonization. You know about the extreme harm done by the white race in the past. But you build bridges. You move forward. And when I came here, I was told, don't burn your bridges. I never burnt any bridges, guys. You're the one that ignited the bridges. You're the one that burnt them, not me. I wanted to cross over to you so you can cross over to me. But when you burn the bridge, you burn it for both people, both cultures, so we can't come together. This is not a nation that will survive under those kind of conditions. So the proceedings were all about transferring control from me. It was about harming me and bankrupting me over a progressive, staged way from one proceeding to another to another. The proceeding S111030 is a oppression proceeding. It is a petition, because when a person claims to be an interest holder, it could be a person who's given a loan, but whoever's given the loan is only entitled to the loan. That person can never be a shareholder. When a person doesn't have a director's agreement, you cannot be a shareholder. That's why you have business agreements. This project, because of the trust between brothers, I actually wanted a whole bunch of written agreements prepared that were not being signed by Manjeet. I suspected something was going to happen, but he was my brother. I trusted him. Is that my mistake? Placing trust in a family member? I trusted lawyers who acted for me, who walked away at the 11th hour. Is that my mistake? I went to judges telling them there's a crime taking place here, so that you cannot be held accountable under law because you could be imprisoned for those crimes. Was that my mistake? If you look at the shareholding order made by Judge Bernier, who followed all the proceedings, he actually allowed me a claim of damages. A petition hearing is not about claiming damages. It's about claiming someone's rights in a business deal or a business venture. But when Judge Bernier allowed my petition, because you have to file a responsive petition so that the director of the company can say, this is what the truth is. Judge Bernier converted that petition to a claim of damages. He did that when he was acting like a judge. I would say Judge Bernier was one of the best judges that we had in the court system, until Brent Lowen came into these proceedings, acting for the Law Society, interfering with ongoing proceedings to protect lawyers who were now being also sued, because I filed another claim against the lawyers who were really responsible for this. The moment I went after the lawyers, that's when Judge Bernier was compromised, with Brent Lowen coming into a proceeding where the Law Society was not being sued. They were not in the style of cause. But when lawyers are deceiving the court as a professional who is ethical and honest, I'm telling the court, this is not allowed. If I'm being harmed because of my honesty, you've got a serious problem, guys. Damages are going to be claimed regardless. But my brother, or former brother as I call it, because a brother does not do this. If you have been deceived by your lawyers, you have a claim against your lawyers, only if you have been deceived. There's other things you may not be deceived about. That doesn't matter. The point is this: when the proceedings were commenced, you were misinformed of the truth. You had to be criminally entrapped. So the shareholding order of Judge Bernier, made in December 31st, 2013, is very clear. There's a lot of stuff that Judge Bernier did not give me. I'm not taking that into consideration. I could have gone to the Court of Appeal if I wanted much more further relief, to say, hey, this is all being denied to me. I didn't need that. What I used is the facts and the determinations that Judge Bernier made, which was sufficient, which cannot be appealed by the other side, which in this case is Manjeet Singh Randhawa. That is in my favor. This is what Judge Bernier allowed. If you look at a legal proceeding, starting from a certain date to a certain date, all of that is encaptured in the reasons of judgment. It's like a river flowing from one end with, say, 100 leaves flowing on the water. You've got to have 100 leaves coming out on the other end. If you can take that analogy of a legal proceeding, what goes from one end has to come out at the other end. The reasons of judgment have to flow through to the final order. To make sure that you guys understand this, Judge Bernier made me a 100% shareholder according to the reasons of judgment. Those are the mini determinations he made. That's what I used as the analysis, which was done by Harvey Sidhu. It was also done by myself. It was also done by another accountant. Harvey Sidhu was the accountant that I retained in the family proceedings, which will be a separate video. But he understood the shareholding order. He actually agreed with me. For almost close to a year, I explained everything to this guy within the family proceedings so that he could explain to my wife. At the 11th hour, he sold me out. This is an accountant who said he's brave. He can take on the CRA. He knows accounting. He deceived me and he deceived my wife in the family proceedings, which will be a separate video. But if you look at the Judge Bernier reasons of judgment, where I am the only shareholder and director, to such a point that I have a loan owed to me by Manjeet, which hasn't even been considered. So the reasons of judgment say I'm the only shareholder and I have a loan owed, but the final order at the bottom, which are the conclusions, says that I am just above 50%. My brother is just under 50%, which is fraud. So my loan, which I gave to Manjeet, is far greater than what he gave me. The contributions that Manjeet made prior to the lands being purchased in 2003 are nowhere close to the contributions that I made during the project after the purchase of the lots that we contributed into the account. My contributions into the account are 3 times greater than Manjeet. He owes me a loan. That loan is also my shares that have not even been considered, that have not been before the courts, until I wrote to Parliament, sent them an affidavit where I believe that Chief Justice Christopher Hinkson removed that judge because he had done something wrong. He issued an order in those proceedings as 111030 ex mero moto. It's where the court has done something improper. It's the court's ability to correct its own errors made. These errors are not made by a lawyer. These are errors made by the court system, by the administration. And so that judge was removed. A new judge was appointed. Judge Bernier made the hearings. He allowed my application to be heard in February when I could not attend because of my 3 ICBC accidents, where I was rear-ended in December 2016, then again in January 2017, and then again the 3rd time in June 2017. So those accidents impacted my ability to perform in the court. I didn't have a lawyer because my lawyer was told to walk away. I won this case. Not only did I win it, Manjeet lost miserably. And he knows it. And so Chief Justice Christopher Hinkson guaranteed me a hearing when he ordered a case planning conference where he appointed a new judge, Madam Justice Murray. What happened on that day? For a case planning conference to decide what proceedings or what applications are remaining, they had to be decided in about 15 minutes. And where I found out that people were invited into these proceedings who were going to buy the lands. Why would they be invited if there's a case planning conference being set? You don't make final orders in a case planning conference. The application was being refused by the court staff. I managed to get it in. So they had to write on the top, forced, filed. The moment that happens, guys, for everyone else out there. When someone at the registry writes forced on your application, that application is as good as denied. That's one of those secret words they use to tell the judge there's something serious about to be exposed here. And so the actual order could have been corrected because my application was for a judicial inquiry into the order because Judge Bennett was removed. And what happened is I got arrested in court when I called 911. There is no law in this country that says a person cannot call the police inside the courtroom. My phone was taken away. The sheriffs took me down, put handcuffs on me, put me in a cell saying I'm in criminal contempt. When the contempt was by Madam Justice Murray, who knew that the application was right before her, who knew that I was the only shareholder. And so those properties had to be sold. And the properties were sold, undersold in fact, because they're worth around about 7 million. They were sold for 5 million. And then I was released, saying my criminal contempt charges are dropped. And now we're going to have a case planning conference in about 2 weeks' time. And then 2 weeks later, I can't turn up to court, and I was told everything's decided. Well, of course it's decided because you decided it through fraud. You sold my properties. You stole it from me. So where is my application? What happened to that? Still hasn't been returned. And you know the shareholding order is in my favor. And so on that day, 2 other lawyers came to court. The 3 lawyers who were involved in these proceedings did not turn up because there was a strong possibility that if they went before that judge and that judge had actually decided that there was a serious matter taking place in the court where lawyers have deceived and stolen property and done fraud, they could have been arrested on the spot. Instead, they harmed me. How is that any different from a robbery? If I go to a bank, to steal money and I arrest the people in the counter, wouldn't the police come immediately? The fact that the crime is taking place inside a courtroom, it's no different here, guys. You know you've done wrong. And then you expect me to come here and I'm being searched like some sort of common criminal here. When the lawyers who are constantly coming to court, their applications are allowed. My applications are not allowed. I'm harassed. I'm illegally searched. Each time a sheriff in the courtroom has searched me illegally because I've not hurt anyone in the courtroom, despite the harm done to me economically. You guys are still allowed to walk out freely. The courts are not about doing crimes. The courts are about solving disputes. They're about justice. And if a judge of the courtroom is doing a crime, where can I get justice? If lawyers are not going to be held accountable, how can I get justice? So those lands are stolen from me, and now those money, which should have been released to me because apparently final orders were made, then why wasn't my money released when $3 million went to Manjit Singh Randhawa, who should have received nothing? So first you steal the lands, now you keep the money in the courtroom, which is used as some kind of bait money to corrupt other lawyers? Are you guys bonkers? And then Madam Justice Murray says to me, I need some kind of a psychological evaluation. I think we all know who needs a psychological evaluation. You need to be held accountable, Madam Justice Murray, but I'm still giving respect to the other justices who may be unaware, where the possibility exists that the Chief Justice Christopher Hinkson is appointing judges who are compromised and corrupt, who are told to deny justice. And that's exactly what's happening in the other proceedings.